Wesley is going to take a conservative approach. He did not. You guys did not agree with me.
Of
you
course
guys
not.
said that Wesley had to pounce on John and take the full point.
He did.
Let's see what's happening in that game.
That's what's happening. He's pouncing.
Jumping over to you, Maurice. Take it.
Oh, you can have it.
Yes, we take C6.
I'll be a gentleman today.
All
Let you have
right,
it.
rook
Rook
E6.
E6. This is all stuff we looked at actually.
And C5, yeah, blasting open. You know,
and takes happen.
He takes C5 is on the board right now.
And it's sort of like, to my eyes, when I look at a position like this, I say, these guys haven't even got out of their barracks.
Right.
They're stuck at home.
But it's still a full point, full pawn.
What are you, Yasser Serouan? I mean, if Yasser,
I like the pawn.
Yasser is telling you
I
he
like
doesn't
pawns
like
as
the
well.
pawn,
I like pawns as well.
Well, you're not the president of the Pawn Grubbers Club.
Absolutely not.
Yasser is the president.
Oh,
and the
my
president of the
goodness.
Pawn Grubbers Club saying, that's not a pawn we take.
Don't go here,
We're not
fellas.
voting on this motion. We don't need to because that's not a pawn we take.
This is not going to be a democracy. What are we going
Maybe
to do
that's
about
just
rook?
lack of political experience.
Yeah, exactly. What about rook G6 and just start saying, look, it's all about the fact that I've got
Immediately rook G6.
Yeah, I'm just thinking.
No, but he took on C5. Yes, come on.
Oh, he did.
This is so crystal clear.
That's true.
You're going to plunk a knight on D3 like
I think he took with
Kasparov
the bishop,
did.
by the way.
No,
with the knight.
With the
knight.
knight. He did it because it was a tempo.
Look,
Exactly.
I hear Kasparov, Karpov, Kasparov. Was it the 16th game?
Of the Moscow World Championship.
The knight's going to land on D3, and it's going to be an octopus. Oh man, the queen went to F4. That's even more a reason the knight's going to go to D3 later. It's going to be with super tempo on everybody when it lands there. John
is really waving.
Oh man!
Yeah, John is really waving a red flag in front of an angry bull here. I don't know. I'm thinking no, Bishop E4. Unfortunately,
I think you can go knight G5.
Exactly. That was party pooper.
And I do believe this is John's point. But Bishop G6 just simply defends that critical F7 point. But also knight D3 is coming.
No question that knight D3 is coming. What could John...
And the question is, how do you develop your pieces as white?
I'm not happy.
Knight
okay,
D4.
that is at least a tempo. What I'm really... No, seriously. Knight on D3, I agree. It's a great piece. But the piece I'm really, really afraid of is the bishop on A7.
Correct.
So if I could go knight D4, and just humor me for just a second, if I was in John's position, I would make a rush to eliminate this bishop, even if later it costs me a pawn and I get to control the D4 square. You go, look, I was already a pawn up. So I think
it means
we
that
need
this position is very concrete.
Yeah,
you have to find something right now.
I think we need something a little bit more crisp and favorable for Wesley after the move Queen F4.
By the way, maybe just bishop to E4.
Well,
knight
that
G5,
was the knight G5.
and then just give the F7 pawn.
Is there any reasons
Rook
to
G6.
include bishop to D3? In other words, put the rook on E1 where it's not defending F2.
I feel not, because after bishop to D3 also you can play the move knight D4.
Okay, but then we can trade. No. I take a rook. And
No, you can't play knight D4.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, let me inform the audience what I mean. Is if I take your rook, you've lost an exchange. You can't take my rook. I've got a tempo. But okay, so here's what I was thinking. You could play bishop D3. You could tease the rook to the square E1. Now it makes all the difference in the world when we
bishop
read
G6.
bishop to G6.
Talk about a super tempo.
Yeah.
And I said the knight is like an
Ding,
octopus.
ding, ding,
How many things is it going to attack in one move? The two pawns, the rook, the queen, and the bishop. Oh, three pawns. Whoa.
Bishop D3 is the money move.
That is an all-star piece.
The knight can move to 8 squares. When the knight gets to D3, it's hitting 7 white units. It's like, what?
Actually,
and by the way, we do
it's
have
got to be
bishop
6 white units because it's moved off of its own individual square.
That's true.
So 6, but still, 6 is enough.
And we do.
And we do have bishop to D3 on the board. That's a scary move. By the way, rook to D1 allows an instant bishop E2.
Oh, that's even
That's
nasty
an important point
too.
because now your rook, a full rook indefensible. There's nothing on the board that can defend that rook.
And knight d3.
And with rook e1 really shows our point, as then knight d3.
I think you have to give up the exchange.
I do too.
Knight d4.
This is one of the wonderful things about chess is sometimes chess is such an easy game. It's such a logical game. You go bishop d3. You get the rook off the e-pawn. Then you go
bishop
to and then you go knight d3. And you
win the game.
And you win the game. And you brush yourself and say, and then you get moves that, you think to yourself, I'll need 5 years to understand what the guy was thinking when he played that move. And you still, Fabiano came in to studios talking to Maurice and said, and in your game with Wesley, when you played the move d5, why did you do it? I don't know. I can't explain it.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, you can even take the rook on f1 first if you want.
Yeah, but I think there's also good reasons to think
He's
about
trying
this.
to checkmate us.
Yeah,
I would just be terrified.
Look,
there's no
it looks
development.
bad.
Look at my bishop on c1, rook on a1. Wesley's licking his chops right now.
Right.
Instead, there's another move we have seen on the board. The rook did not move. The knight did not move. It looked like
B4.
pawn to b4.
I wanted to say, I think that this is probably White's best move. Give up the exchange. Take my rook. I'm going to take the knight. Why did I sacrifice the exchange? Well, I do have a beautiful square for my pieces. The bishop on c1 now has a role. Whether it's good or not, I don't know.
You can't have this.
No.
I mean, that's great. Why would we?
Oh,
no,
sorry. You're arguing that this is too much compensation.
Oh man. I mean, I guess you could. It is an exchange.
You think you should maybe drop the knight in on e4?
That would be the direction I'd be going.
And be thinking, okay,
I get the exchange
F2,
anyway. Mm-hmm.
But how does this line go? I've
So
got knight g5.
You take with the pawn.
Okay, knight takes e4, pawn takes e4, knight g5. Gift me the pawn.
So what if I go rook to g6 now?
Rook to g6. That's a pity because I was about to play bishop to e3, but now my knight would be undefended.
This looked dangerous, by the way. Queen f7, queen f4 coming back. I'm not sure about this.
Yeah. I'm not sure now you stop yourself.
Forget about it.
Sorry. One of I really do enjoy it, I must say. I'm not addicted. I'm not addicted, but I do like the puzzle rush challenges.
Yeah.
And I get those ones easy. I hate it when they throw in a study. You have all of these tactical puzzle rushes. Then you have the most.
Queen takes g6 is pretty much over.
Don't play
that's finished, of course.
That's finished.
I'm talking about this line. So the rook has to back up. Let's play a logical move.
So I have to move my rook. Now I'm not really worried about the rovers anymore. But
hold on.
d4, there's a rook hanging.
There's a queen d. Yes, could we
There's a
continue
bishop
the line,
d4.
please? No. I wanted to play queen d4. Why are you busy playing?
Queen d4, bishop e3.
This
covers
is true.
everything.
This is true.
This one.
Are you sure it covers everything?
I think so.
I'm
No,
not.
but you're right. That move is better. Bishop d4 is better.
Okay, so what I'm
Because I'm going after the e pawn as well. The e3 pawn, the e4 pawn.
Exactly.
The e5 pawn. Woo! The e5 pawn is what I'm after. But bishop d4 does it better.
I like that. I think it's time to give up the exchange, but I'm not happy. I think this is Wesley all the way.
Bishop takes f1.
Now we finally take on f1.
Because I do, if I do get knight take, but I'm afraid that you've got a good move here.
I've got bishop d4.
That's the good move that I was most afraid of. Rook d1, you can take on f2. That's Johnny Ballgame for Wesley. If you can play bishop d4 and win the e5 pawn.
Yep.
Let me help Maurice out. I love that one.
We're probably going to see some sort of an endgame after bishop takes d4 at that point. Take, queen takes c4, but that should be a technical win for
Oh, yeah.
But
we love
here, I think here's an important lesson for our viewers. We just saw the move bishop d3, and imagine that our viewer had played the move bishop d3, and the rook didn't move, and your opponent played b4. Don't be quick and capture that rook, because at the end you saw Maurice back it up, say, wait a minute, that's a really good compensation after b takes e5. Stop and say, what is my opponent doing? He's going to take my knight, And then you start to realize that knight e4 is the correct move. That's the money move.
I had a game
Please.
against Michael Betzold, a grandmaster from Germany. This was in a tournament in 1998 in Bermuda. And on b3, the dark square domination for white with the knight on b3, the other knight coming to d4, potential f4, f5 action as well. That position, Wesley's checking it to see if he can disrupt it, right? Because you should show that, that position on the board if you can.
I'm just going to
You
bring
come back to it.
Where is it? Oh,
There it is.
There it is. Sorry.
So let's take a look. Bishop f1.
b4 takes
You got to take on
c5.
c5. You cannot let that knight
The
move.
bishop is hanging. Your bishop doesn't want to go to e2 where it can be tickled as well as the rook. So the bishop, we withdrew the bishop all the way back, and suddenly this
Guard the
bishop is kind of blocked.
Now, Wesley's checking this because the knight is the thing that's holding the pawn in place at the moment. So he can now play bishop c4 and say, well, maybe, although he has to deal
Then knight d4
with knight d4 as a move, as well as bishop e3. So he's checking right now. Just, is this going to hold? And he's checking beyond this. He's not looking at just this one move, knight d4. He's saying, I'm up in exchange for a pawn for a while, but is it real that I keep some kind of edge? And he's going to look, because it is an exchange.
Right.
We can't just throw it away. And here, Yasser, you're trying to sack back in order to check the dynamics here as well.
Exactly.
So Wesley is looking and looking and looking because it's a permanent situation. And if he doesn't, if he's not satisfied, then he'll play knight to e4. But he's not just going to take the rook because it's a rook.
Exactly. I wanted to turn our attention to the Linderman game very quickly. Did you have another game?
That's the one.
Oh,
That's
that was
the
the
one I was
game.
going to say.
Because I said, I have a different approach. Give me the rook, or rather the exchange, and let me post up with my queen. Queen to d3, threatening the pawn, winning the game. Bishop to d4, and this is probably why the engine felt that it wasn't as crisp, that f6 was better. At the moment, Wesley's up an exchange.
No, but there was this terrible moves by the youngster. He had a great chance.
G4, G5.
Yeah, that kind of play was just suicidal.
Where did he go wrong?
Knight f3 was good. It's right here. He had a truly amazing chance.
Sparkling.
Knight h4. Hard move to see for sure, but what a move.
You can't play queen takes d4
So,
check. This
rook
is
takes
knight
d4.
f5. Send exchange against John Burke, because John Burke did not find that move knight h4, which is rather visual with the rook on e7. Instead, they've got a position where it looks like Wesley is, well, I don't want to say cruising to victory. It's like one of those
G4.
Pawn on g4, the king on
makes a
g1
bad
is not
impression.
looking good.
No, I mean,
The rooks are going to infiltrate on the second rank, queen a3, rook to b2.
Where's the
Unless you do
counterplay?
something with those central pawns, especially the d pawn, you stand no chance.
except moving the d pawn is going to cause you to have a really big accident on g4. This looks very, very good for Wesley, and should he win, he will surge along with Sam Sevian.
Along with Sam Sevian on 4.5 points.
Up to 4.5 points.
Well, we're going to see what the other co-leaders going into this round are going to do, but we do have a special guest in the studio. The 8-time national champion Irina Krush is with Maurice Ashley.
Indeed, we saw Irina. A very interesting game for sure, we would say, for Wesley. Wesley, in this tournament, we saw you win, I think about 6 weeks ago.
It was only a week ago. I beat Dario.
Okay, it was only a week ago. I do remember that you won a week ago.
It feels like it
feels like you haven't been here
I'm sure it was the Sinfield Cup. I remember now.
I was 27 when I won, when I last won a game a year ago.
That's true. Indeed, technically correct.
Yeah, so first of all, I'd like to thank Lord God Jesus for letting me win. It's super hard to win even one game.
No, that definitely was interesting. And this game was sharp. This game got wild and busy pretty quickly.
Yeah, before we analyze, I want to wanna say shout out to my young opponent, John Burke. He's only 20. He's got a lot of promise. He's a very aggressive player. And last night, I checked his openings. I was looking for a way to try to play for a win with the black pieces. But he knows his theory very well. And I considered playing other openings, like the Sicilian or the Caro-Kann. But most likely, I'd get a worse position out the opening, so I didn't feel like playing it. And then I thought about the Lopez, but it's also hard to play for a win there. But big shout out to him for not just forcing the draw with the white pieces.
Let me ask you this question, because we were debating this during the broadcast.
Yeah.
Were you thinking from move one, I'm trying to beat this young man? After all, he's not that experienced in the U.S. Championships. Good player,
Yeah.
but you outrate him by a couple of 100 rating points.
Yeah,
or were you
that's
just
true.
thinking solid play?
Yeah, first of all, I wasn't thinking of the result. First of all, I think for a top player, it's almost impossible to gain rating in the U.S. Championship. There's just a lot of talented, lower-rated players. I think their rating should be higher, but like I think 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬, for example, or Robson's rating should be higher, but or Lenderman, well, because they're very good players. So when you have the black pieces, it's difficult to play for a win. And this is my 7th U.S. Championship. I've lost to some 2500s in the past. I've lost to 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬, Conrad Holt, a wonder, amongst others.
Man, you just remembered him off the top of your head like that. Long memory.
Yeah, you don't forget when you lose someone 200 points lower. So also, I think 𝙬𝙬𝙬𝙬, he was 25-31 in 2015, and he beat me, and he drew against Hikaru Nakamura, who was 27-98. So I think sometimes you just gotta play your best, and if it's a draw, you can move on. I mean, John Burke could go for this 14-move repetition, as you can see, this Berlin draw, but he didn't. Big shout. I think at the end of the day, if you're that young, I mean, sure you can make a draw, get 2 or 3 rating points, but I think the experience is more valuable.
Absolutely. I agree
Yeah,
with
and
that.
also, yeah, I couldn't just think of any opening to play for a win against 1e4. I mean, I could try the Najdorf, but he knows it very well.
Indeed. All right, let's get into the game because it got sharp, and then
Yeah.
you got a piece on D3,